I'm Judge Fred Newton, presiding judge for Coconino County Superior Court. We've prepared this short video to introduce you to our courthouse and to help you understand your duties as potential jurors. Historically, jury duty has always been one of the most significant acts of community service a citizen could perform for their fellow citizens. First and foremost, a jury trial is a constitutional right guaranteed to all persons, citizens and non-citizens alike. That guarantee can't be made without citizens like you serving their communities in jury service.
The American patriots who fought for independence from Great Britain were ready to lay down their lives for the individual rights they believed in. These included freedom of speech and religion and the right to trial by jury. The leaders of the American Revolution were outraged when colonists taken to court for violating the Hated Stamp Act and Navigation Acts were denied the age-old English right to trial by jury. In the Declaration of Independence, Thomas Jefferson emphasized depriving us in many cases of the benefits of trial by jury as one of the major grievances leading to the American Revolution. In 1787, the members of the First Congress of the United States insisted on preserving the right in our Constitution to ensure that future generations would be judged by their neighbors or a jury of their peers, and not by the government. 10 amendments, known as the Bill of Rights, were added to the Constitution and ratified by the last necessary state in 1791. The Sixth Amendment states that in a criminal case, an accused person has a right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury of their peers. The Seventh Amendment states that in all civil cases where the money value in controversy shall exceed $20, the right of trial by jury shall be preserved. Although $20 was worth a good deal more in 1791 than it is now, it was a sum well within the range of ordinary people. Every state constitution has adopted the principles of the Bill of Rights to a trial by jury, supporting the commitment that the right to jury trial would remain inviolate. Secondly, jury service is one of the highest services a citizen can perform for another fellow citizen. Thomas Jefferson thought that the common sense of 12 honest men and women gives a still better chance of just decision than any other method of trial. With that in mind, let's take a closer look at what your jury service is all about.
Both our state and federal constitutions guarantee every person the right to a jury trial in criminal and civil matters. By serving as a juror, you play a significant part in ensuring that this right is afforded to everyone. There are only two qualities a potential juror must possess. You must be impartial, and you must be willing to follow the law. There are several qualifications you must have in order to serve. They are that you must be a resident of Coconino County, 18 years of age or older, and not have any felony convictions unless your civil rights have been restored. What does it mean to be impartial? It simply means that you will keep an open mind as you hear the evidence and will not make up your mind until you have joined your fellow jurors in making the final decision. Now, I realize that certain types of cases, especially in criminal accusations, can bring up very intense emotions in jurors. The law does not require that you be an emotionless or act like a robot without feelings as you listen and consider the evidence. However, you must be able to put aside your feelings to the extent that you can fairly and objectively listen to the evidence and then make a fair and impartial decision. The second requirement is that you must be willing to follow the law. The judge will tell you what law you should follow. It will be your duty to accept the law as the judge tells you and then apply that law in reaching a decision.
With that said, let's take a look at the process of becoming a juror. In a little while, the bailiff will come and escort you to one of our courtrooms. You will then be seated and will take an oath to give true answers to the questions that will be asked. The court clerk will read off the list of randomly selected names. Those jurors will then sit in the jury box. This is known as the impanelment of the jury. These questions are not designed to pry into your personal lives. However, the attorneys will be listening to your answers in order to make their selections as to who they believe would make a good juror. The process of asking questions of the jurors is called voir dire. If you have a hearing problem, please let the court know in advance. There are headphones available to help you if you have trouble hearing the proceedings. After the judge is finished asking questions, the lawyers will be given an opportunity to ask follow-up questions. Please understand that there are no right or wrong answers. Just be honest and complete in your answers. Sometimes people have very strong opinions about certain issues and will attempt to use this time to make a personal speech. Please don't do this, as it may make other jurors unable to hear the case because of what you've said. Answer the questions, but don't use that answer time to make a personal appeal or speech on an issue you feel strongly about.
Please understand, if you feel uncomfortable answering any questions in front of the other jurors, you can tell the judge you wish to answer that question in private. At an opportune time, the bailiff will take you to a private location, most probably the judge's private chambers or office, and there the judge and the lawyers will give you an opportunity to answer the question away from the other jurors. After the questions are concluded, the parties will meet with the judge and resolve any further questions about the prospective jurors. This is called passing the panel for cause. The next step will be for the attorneys to make their final selection as to who will serve on the jury panel. During this process, you will be asked to leave the courtroom. Stay close by the courtroom or the jury assembly room unless you are instructed otherwise, as this process may be completed in a short time. After this process is completed, you will be taken back into the courtroom where the people chosen to serve on the jury will be selected. If you are not one of the ones who was selected, don't take it personally. Attorneys have all sorts of reasons why they believe one juror may be more acceptable than another juror. Some attorneys have even made their final decision based upon whether a juror was a pet owner.
If you are selected as a juror, here is how the case will normally proceed. The judge will read you some preliminary instructions about how you are to view the evidence as it is presented. Second, the judge will read you the admonition or a list of do's and don'ts that will govern your behavior outside of the courtroom, such as not listening to the TV or reading in a newspaper about the trial. Third, the party bringing the case will give an opening statement about what they expect the evidence to be. During jury selection, you may have already heard a mini opening statement. This opening statement will be a more complete or longer statement. This opening statement is a brief summary of the facts each party intends to show in their case in order to persuade you that you should decide in their favor. If it is a civil case, that party is called the plaintiff. In a criminal case, that party is called the prosecution or the state. Fourth, the defense will then be given an opportunity to present their opening statement, or they may decide to wait until the plaintiff has presented their entire case before they give their opening statement. Fifth, the plaintiff will then begin presenting their case by calling witnesses to testify and present other evidence, such as documents or pictures. The other side will then be given a chance to ask questions of those witnesses in order to test their credibility of their testimony. This is called cross-examination. After the plaintiff or prosecution has presented all the testimony and other evidence they have in their case, then the defense will be given an opportunity to present their side of the case if they choose. The plaintiff will also have the opportunity to cross-examine the defendant's witnesses. Sixth, after the entire case is presented to you, then the judge will read you the final jury instructions that will give you the law you must follow in deciding the case. Both sides will then give a closing argument telling you how they believe the evidence has proved their case. At the close of their arguments, you will then be taken to the jury room where you will discuss the evidence and the law and render a decision. Finally, you will then come back into court and give your decision to the judge, where it will be read in open court.
In the last few years, Coconino County has instituted a significant change for the jurors that has been adopted statewide. That new change is that you, as a juror, will be allowed to ask questions of any of the witnesses. After both sides have questioned the witness, the judge will then turn to the jury and ask if any of the jurors have any questions for the witnesses. If a juror has a question, they simply will write it down on a slip of paper, hand it to the bailiff, and then both sides will meet with the judge in a private conference. And if the judge believes the question is relevant and admissible under the rules of evidence, we'll ask the juror's question of the witness. If you are selected as a juror, the judge will explain this process in more detail. The service you perform for you and your fellow citizens by serving on a jury will help keep our constitutional rights strong and healthy.
Now, let's take a brief tour of our courthouse so you will be able to find your way around it. Our courthouse recently underwent a major redevelopment and expansion. The room you're in is a benefit of that expansion. This is the jury assembly room. Previously, jurors would have had to stand in the hallways until called. There was no place for jurors to sit, read, and relax until they were called for the empanelment process. Hopefully, you will find these surroundings much more accommodating and comfortable. Finally, we want to give you some further useful information about our courthouse and courtrooms. Pay telephones are located here. Bathrooms are located at these locations. Should you have any questions or concerns, the court security staff are here to help you. It is our hope that this video has helped you to better understand your duties and service to our community as a juror, and that we hope that your experience as a juror will be a positive one.